Welcome to the JRPG Canon, the podcast where we play a little bit of a video game to learn a little bit about video games. I'm Sam,
I'm Bernard.
and today we'll be covering Mother, aka Earthbound, or aka Earthbound Beginnings for the Famicom, aka the NES, aka Nintendo Classics for the Nintendo Switch.
Hell yeah.
But before we dive in, have you played Mother 1 before, Bernard?
No, I have played Earthbound a long time ago, and I played Mother 3 a longer time ago. I played Earthbound before Mother 3, but then I replayed Earthbound more recently, but still a very long time ago.
Yeah, I played a good chunk of Earthbound just cuz, but then bounced off it for some reason, and then I played a good chunk of it for the JRPG Canon, and was like, this time I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to finish it, and then I also never finished it. So I'm excited to have another unfinished Mother save. Now I just need to start and unfinish Mother 3, and then I'll have all of them, and that's all you
Unfinished
need.
is an interesting verb.
Yes. So, in stark contrast to the other games we've played so far, this game is heavily documented with primary sources because its creator, Shigesato Itoi, is a Japanese celebrity, and he's a celebrity for his ability to write. So, write, he does. And he wrote in 1989 a detailed account of the development of Mother. He also, being a celebrity, has taken and given many interviews in the decades since. So, there was tons of data to pull from, unlike a lot of these. Before getting into games and after leaving them, Shigesato Itoi was a writer. Specifically, he was a copywriter for advertisements, and he became a celebrity because of his advertisement copy. And I don't know how that works. I can't imagine a world where the guy who wrote "Come buy a Happy Meal" gets famous, but it happened in Japan.
Must have been some good fucking ad copy.
Yeah, uh, Shigesato Itoi's pre-video game, pre-meeting Murakami celebritydom is weird to me. But after establishing himself as a celebrity copywriter, he wrote some short stories in a collection with Haruki Murakami that was titled Yume de Aimasho, or Let's Meet in a Dream. But in his private life, he was a capital G gamer. He says that the intensity with which he devoured Famicom games was basically just obsession. And the entire time he was playing them, he would remark to himself how he would tweak the games if he were making them. Like, I changed this to make it better, and I wish they would have done this instead. And so a nugget of an idea for his own game began to form. He loved Dragon Quest III, even though he says it's not an influence on his game that steals everything from Dragon Quest III. But so he wanted to make an RPG a lot like it, but he didn't know anything about medieval Europe. And he says, and I suspect no one else does either. If you want to know the truth, it seems that everyone just bases their ideas off of famous works like Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Called out completely. So he wanted the game to just be about a normal kid in a modern setting. Instead of swords and magic, his characters would have baseball bats and psychic powers. He traveled to Chicago for some copyright work, and while he was there, he fell in love with all the houses in the streets of suburbia, and so he leaned heavily on this experience when he was fleshing out his game. So one day, Nintendo hired him for some small copyright gig, and he knew that it was his chance. He typed up his design ideas, and before he left Nintendo, he showed his game to Miyamoto and asked him, like, here, I'm giving this to Nintendo, you guys make the game. And so Miyamoto looked at it and was like, neat, but I know it's a lot of work, but start over and make it simpler. And Itoi says he cried on the subway home, but once he got home, he listened and he was like, okay, I'm going to start over and I'm going to make it simpler. Everyone around him was like, Miyamoto was just being nice. I think he was just trying to tell you, no, Nintendo's not going to make your game. But he says, I couldn't help it. At this point, I wanted to play the game myself. And on top of that, I wanted to show it off to my closest friends and let them play it too. My starting point for Mother was to make a game I personally would really want to play if it existed. So he made those changes, and Miyamoto put a team together to help make the game. Itoi wanted to be involved with the game from start to finish, but he says that he would have been fine having the smallest job on the game as long as it got made. But it was his seriousness about the project and like approaching it as a game designer and not a celebrity that got Nintendo's attention. Because at the time, celebrity endorsements were all the rage, and usually those games sucked. So for every Mike Tyson's Punch Out, there's 30 Andre Agassi's Tennis, or more relevantly, Takeshi's Challenge. And Nintendo didn't want to be seen as cashing in on this trend by working with Itoi and having some shitty game come out. But Itoi had a good head on his shoulders, and he knew how to delegate work and rely on the expertise of his team. In one interview, the interviewer asked him about Mother's muted color palette, and he said that the design idea came from his designer. The designer came to him and was like, "Hey, I've got this option and this option," and Itoi was like, "You're the professional. What do you think?" He says that if the person that's actually doing the work says that's the one, there's usually a reason for it, and that reason is usually steeped in the passion for their craft. He doesn't say which of his graphic designers that was, but his graphic design team was Shinbo Minami, Tatsuya Ishii, and Masao Tottori. Helping him with the game design was Miyuki Kure, and programming was handled by Kazuyo Nakatani, Takayuki Onodera, and Moto Yasuma. The music in the game was composed by Keiji Suzuki and arranged and programmed by the legendary Hip Tanaka. Suzuki and Tanaka would have jam sessions in Suzuki's house after work because they both were involved with Nintendo at the time. And so they would go to Suzuki's apartment, and Suzuki would play a track on the piano, and Tanaka would like transcribe it down directly into the NES on the computer that he took with him from work every day. Which these were big old computers in the 80s, and he was lugging it across town.
And across time, just linear time, and not in any
Yes.
interesting way, but he was lugging it across time.
It's true. So the game released in Japan to quite a lot of acclaim, and it was planned to have an English release localized by Phil Sandhop as Earth Space Bound. They brought it to the 1991 Winter Consumer Electronics Show, and they showed it off there. And when they showed it off, that was reported on by Electronic Gaming Monthly. And in Nintendo Power, it was featured several times. There was one where it was like here's the preview, this game's coming up, that talked about it. But like from 1989 to like 1992, I forget exactly what they call it, but it's like their Game Pro panelists or something. But it's like, hey, these are the people who are writing the tips this month, and several of the panelists were like, my favorite NES game is Earthbound, and so it was definitely finished and ready to go, but it was shelved before release so that Nintendo could focus on the Super NES. But many, many years later, on the Wii U Virtual Console, Nintendo finally released Sandhop's localization.
Of course, the prototype was found and circulated on the internet long before the official release. But then it did get an official release, which is cool. And now you can play it on the Switch, Nintendo Classics, Nintendo Switch Online Classics, Nintendo.
And it is that release that we will be playing after this brief musical interlude. Okay, so first things first, we were wrong. We absolutely could have saved the kid that night.
Yeah.
I kept playing after we stopped, and I saved him in like 10 minutes.
Yeah, and I think that is related to one of the problems I have with this game, which is that the way the math works out, and I feel bad complaining about the math in this and Phantasy Star because I could not balance an old school RPG. I would not be able to do that, but I can complain about it. In Earthbound Beginnings, I find, and after we played, I ended up starting a game myself and playing a whole bunch. I find that it's extremely difficult, but then suddenly a section will get trivially easy. And So we stopped playing right before the moment where that section would flip to trivially easy. So
Hmm.
you were able to go save the kid no problem.
Yeah, like when I went to save the kid, the gangster ghosts are zombies that were giving me so much heck on this on the VOD. I beat them in 2 hits the very next time I got there. So yeah, I think the I don't know what part of the math it is, but something about it, like every level up is too big of a jump, where in Phantasy Star it wasn't big enough of a jump, and so somewhere in the middle is where it's good, and this one is because I started over on the Game Boy Advance version only because my Miu Mini can't fast forward on NES, and the those Mr. Batty fights where you fight like 5 of them at once, and it's not hard. It's just a long time of sitting on the auto button. I wanted fast forward to be able to do it, so I started over on the GBA version, and that one they added in the fan translation, they added an easy ring where if you equip the easy ring, it doubles your experience and your gold. But you can't unequip things in Mother. You only can equip things to replace it. And the first time you can get a ring is all the way in Magicant, which
Yeah.
is a very long ways into the game. And so
Not as long into the game as I would have thought, but yeah,
yeah.
it's a ways.
But I like nothing hurts anymore because every level is just way too strong for me to only have it for like the first hour of content of the game. Has now I'm over leveled for the rest of the game, and it's not as fun. And if I by the time I realized that I'm like, oh, nothing can phase me, I was so far in that I didn't want to start over for a third time.
Yeah, I can definitely see the merit in adding an easy ring for a fan version of the game because um it can be very frustrating and it's a game that you would largely want to just check out for the very good writing and the very good
Hmm.
vibes and the very good music. However, because things do eventually get trivially easy, I would say the bigger impediment to enjoyment in our modern era is the fucking encounter rate being so whack.
Yeah, it's it's one where like every step is a 1D100 chance for you to get into a fight or whatever it is,
More like a
and
1d20.
yeah, 1D20, and that does not have any pity timer on it
Yeah.
whatsoever. It is if you but there was one time where like Nintendo didn't even move like an entire tile. Like it just was like you have now pressed the over button, you're in another battle.
Yep, that happened to me multiple times.
Yeah.
And then, of course, when I got Lloyd and was
Mhm.
trying to do a bit of grinding to level him up, then I
Mhm.
couldn't get into an encounter.
No. Yeah, me neither. The
Because
fact
I
that
did
like
play far enough to get Lloyd, like all in one day. I played that much. I I liked this game a lot despite my complaints.
mhm. I still think it's hilarious. Like on the VOD, you can watch. We were waiting for us to run into monsters on the field because we didn't know it was random encounters. Because like I went through the entire first 1.5 sections with monsters without because the basement also has random encounters in it when you go in to
Yeah,
get your grandfather's journal. I
but
didn't
we
get him
didn't get
there.
that.
I didn't get him outside. My first real fight was the zombie at the bottom of town.
Yeah, and at in the intro to the game, you fight the lamp and you fight the doll, and those do appear on the field. So
Hmm.
it made me think, like, if you'd asked me, do you think Mother One has battles on the field? I would have said, well, probably not. That would be wild for an NES game.
Hmm.
But since it did that, and since we just weren't seeing any random encounters, I figured that was the case sort of subconsciously. And
Yeah.
then when eventually we did get random encounters, we started getting them.
Yeah. Yeah, so I always had heard from like Mother and Earthbound fans that Mother 1 was a rough draft for what Earthbound would eventually become, and therefore it's skippable because all of the annoying NES aspects of the game are loud and hard to ignore. but it's actually fantastic in its own right. Yes, it has a lot of problems. We will talk more at length about its various problems. Most specifically, the menus just eating every input.
God.
But like so much about the game was like, oh no, this is just Earthbound Light, not Earthbound Beta. It's Earthbound Light. It just there's less stuff going on because it's an NES game, but it feels exactly like Earthbound to me, and that's cool.
And I mean, it isn't literally exactly the same story and scenarios,
Mm-mm.
uh, but it does feel like a weird proto version of Earthbound, and I like it a lot. I figured I probably wouldn't want to keep playing it because, I've already played Earthbound, and if I wanted to keep playing it, maybe I would just replay Earthbound instead. But no, I want to keep at it.
Yeah. And if you switch to the GBA version, the menus are fixed, but the control scheme is stupid. So the A button brings up your A button menu and is accept in that menu. The B button is cancel in those menus, but it also brings up your status screen, as does start, and then run is the R button, and L is a context sensitive do anything button, and it is bizarre. I remapped it on my Miu Mini because that's insane. But
Now, L being a context sensitive button, that's fine to me because that's how it is on Earthbound and everything. But
mhm.
run being on R instead of B,
Yeah,
that's weird to me.
B being a menu button and not run is insane. Especially because it's a redundant menu button. It brings up the same menu that pressing select does.
That's weird.
Yeah, very 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 weird. So a couple things that I learned from playing more of the game is we wondered if the AI was a smart AI or not, and it is. If you use auto, your characters will target a new monster if one has died before they get to attack. But if you manually attack, you'll get a "but Mr. Bat was already gone" or whatever message. And then the AI will also use your heals if you get your shit rocked before your turn comes up, even if you were max health when the turn started. That's one of my favorite features of classic Dragon Quest, and I'm glad that it's here too, because you get to balance control and targeting weak points and using your strongest moves versus mid-round decision changes. And so it's a fun, like, oh, this boss, I only have, like, I'm just fighting a one dude in the boss, so I don't need auto to auto target. And so I want to be able to plan every single move, but then I'm facing five baddies. I'm going to hit the auto button and go get a drink of water and then come back.
One thing that is interesting, you mentioned, deciding whether to use powerful moves and stuff. I don't think I've unlocked a damage psi power.
I have not. I have gotten very far in the game, and I have not. The
It's weird
closest,
that there's not like a fireball spell.
yeah, the closest thing that I've gotten is defense down.
Yeah.
That's like the only one that targets the other.
I wonder if Ninten even gets them or if the girl gets them or
Mhm.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Um, Another thing that I have some problems with is the dungeons are just fine. They're hard to dungeoneer, but not in a cool, interesting way, but in just there are way too many rooms. This thing is way too big, and every room has the exact same tile set, sort of way.
Yeah.
Especially the second factory, Duncan's factory or whatever. That one is just I just go on vibes and hope that I could find where I'm going because that thing is just huge and I can't keep a map of it in my head.
Yeah. Although I did really like the dungeon that we didn't get to when we were playing, but the one where you're leaving Magicant that looks all creepy and like a ZX Spectrum game.
Yeah,
And it
that
has
one's
a
really cool.
dragon in it that you can't wake up because your psi isn't powerful enough.
Yeah,
And it has the Forgotten Man.
yeah. I love the Forgotten Man. There's like
Yeah, the problem with us continuing to play is that now we have all these things to talk about that weren't covered in the video.
no. So the Forgotten Man happened. There's a thing like this that happened, I think, 3 or 4 times in my playthrough, but it's a like conversation puzzle where you have to like say the thing that the person wants to hear to be able to get them to do what you want. Like the Forgotten Man has one, the Janitor has one, and Lloyd has one, and there might be another one that I'm not remembering. But it's cool because it's weird and you only have yes or no. It's not like a branching dialogue system. In the Japanese, if you fail, at least on the Forgotten Man one, I don't know if it's on any of the others, but if you fail on the Forgotten Man, it teleports you to the beginning of the dungeon and you have to do
Oh
it
my
again.
God. Now that is hilarious.
Yes,
And I like when games are hilarious, but that's a bit much.
that's a bit much. Yeah, shout outs to Phil Sandhop for saying no and taking that out of this version.
Especially because it's a long conversation puzzle. You have
Yeah,
to
I
figure
think
out the answers to several
I
things.
think it's 5 of them,
Yeah.
something like that. It's super long.
The janitor one was very funny though, because he's complaining about this, and you're like, yeah, complaining about my wife, yeah, complaining about my wife, yeah, complaining about my wife, yeah. Then he says, like, don't you agree my wife is terrible? And if you say yes to that, which you've had to say yes to everything else, if you say yes to that, he's like, how dare you talk about my wife like that?
Very good. That brings up like my main takeaway from Earth Mother Beginning Zero is that it belongs in the JRPG canon because you you can just do your own version of something that already exists. Like it reminds me of that fuck yeah 2 cakes meme where it's like you can just bake another Dragon Quest 3. It's totally fine because the thing that you add to it, as long as you do actually add to it, I've played several Dragon Quest 3 knockoffs that did not add anything good to it, but if you fill your Dragon Quest 3 knockoff with your own specific voice, you get something great out of it. And like we don't even really mind that we've played this game before because all of the stuff that makes this different is unique and has a like a personal voice, and you can feel that this game, like you can like feel it breathe almost. And not going to name any Ghost Lion or Jajimaru names, but there are a couple Dragon Quest knockoffs that are just Dragon Quest.
And the problem with doing a Dragon Quest knockoff and not really putting your own voice into it is that Dragon Quest games are so meticulously crafted,
Mm-hmm.
you're probably not going to be able to do the exact same thing
Yeah,
as good as them, but you can do the exact same thing more poorly, but put your own voice into it, and it can still be really fun and worthwhile.
yeah.
Especially if you happen to be some sort of celebrity literary marketing genius.
Yes. This game has heart and that's cool. So I definitely recommend you play it and just ev- even if you don't play the whole thing, just go talk to some NPCs in town.
That's one thing about this game. There are a lot of NPCs with a lot of dialogue, and there are
Hmm.
even times where the dialogue changes.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, this is a fucking Famicom game.
Didn't you look it up and it's like the third biggest NES game or something?
I looked it up, and if I recall correctly, it's 512 kilobytes, which is, I think, the largest standard size. All the examples of larger sizes I could find were weird ass heavy narrative Japan only games, or weirdly Kirby's Adventure. Kirby's Adventure was the only one that I found that was bigger, that was like a worldwide release. But if I recall correctly, it's like the same size as Dragon Quest 3, but still it feels huge.
Yeah, because the world size of Mother I know is a lot smaller than Dragon Quest 3, because Dragon Quest 3 squeezed Earth and Alfgard in it. Spoilers. Um, and so Dragon Quest 3 has more game, and this one has a lot more dialogue, like copious amounts more dialogue.
Especially when you get to Magicant and you realize, oh, I can go into every building here for some reason, and every building has one or two people in it.
Hmm. It's very, very big and very, very good. But I think that will bring us to the end of today's episode. If you like what you heard today and you're not already subscribed to RPG Book Club, you should check us out wherever you get your podcasts. After subscribing, you can head on over to www.rpgbook.club, where any and all donations will help us offset the cost of running the show. If you donate $1 or more a month, you'll get access to our bonus feed, which has after shows for each episode of the podcast, as well as bonus seasons of the show covering the Tales of series and the Star Ocean series. If you donate $5 or more a month, you'll also get your name shouted out at the end of every episode, a little like this. Shoutouts to Dragonslayer19, Freddie Rodriguez, and JFro Prime. And then finally, at $20 or more a month, you can make me read a one-sentence shout-out to whatever it is you like, such as El Tantavi, who wants you to check out Aftermath.site, a worker-owned, reader-supported news site covering video games, the internet, and the cultures that surround them, as well as Kale Dronis, who says to check out Podcasters Assemble. It is a documentary-style, crowdsourced movie hype and rewatch podcast. Every season, podcasters from around the world are assembled to review, reminisce, and riff on a popular franchise. And then shoutouts to Vimk, who says, the Marshal was classic ninth, and he was filthy rotten all the way through. And then shoutouts to It's Claire Time, who says, for you TTRPG nerds, check out Fabula Ultima. I'm not affiliated with the game, I just think it's neat. For the JRPG Canon, I've been Sam.
I'm Bernard.
Go play some games.